Deltoids. Today I'm going to go through 3 exercises to hit every single head of the deltoids. So we've got 3 heads of the deltoids. We've got the front delt, the side delt, and the rear delt. Okay, they're the simple names for them. And they originate from the clavicle, the acromion, and the spine of the scapula. And so there are going to be different movements that we can perform to preferentially train various components of those muscles. So here's a simple rule for you to remember so that you know which delts you are preferentially stimulating. What's on top works most. And so let me show you 3 different exercises where this principle applies. So the first exercise is our big compound move. It's going to be the seated dumbbell press. I prefer seated variations of the dumbbell press because you're not going to be calling upon your core to work so hard, and so it's going to be less skill focus and more output focus, which means we can work that muscle a little bit harder with more reps, more weight, and more volume. So one key thing that I want to talk about here, firstly, because we're going to be doing a seated dumbbell press, what's on top works hardest. It's going to be the front delt that's on top. So we're going to be working that one the hardest. The next thing that we want to talk about is the angle of the scapula. We don't want your elbows to be flared out to the side. The natural plane for your scapula, or what's called a scapular plane, essentially this angle here, where you can naturally lift your arms out. No one naturally lifts out to the side because you have to retract your shoulder blades. This is the natural position for your shoulder blades to be in, and it's kind of at this 45-degree angle. So that's called a scapular plane, and so we're going to be working in that plane of motion there. So the elbows are going to be slightly in front of the rib cage. Now, in order to optimize this movement further, what we want to do is we want to push the back right up against the bench. When we do that, we're creating even more of a force throughout our bodies that helps to stabilize ourselves more, and the more stable we are, the safer and more effectively we can push weights up. And so without further ado, let me show you how we're going to do this movement, how we're going to set up and get into it. So grab your dumbbells. If they're heavy, get them on the thighs, and then you can just quickly kick them up. And then when you kick them up, we want to be in that position that I talked about. Elbows aren't at the side, in this nice scapular plane here. Then from here, I'm pushing back, my back into the bench. So I'll come a bit further back actually. Feet, I'm kind of pushing my toes into the floor to create a wedge. And then from there, I explode the hands up, keeping that slight angle, lock out at the top, so elevate the shoulders as much as I can before I bring the top of the dumbbells back to the shoulder blade to get as much range of motion as possible. And then I go up again and then back down to that position. To finish, toes up like this, dumbbells onto the thighs, stand up, and then lower them down. Next up, we're going to be doing a single arm leaning lateral raise. And so there's a couple of things that I want to go through here that are going to make this movement a little bit better for you. So with lateral raise, in the first part of the movement, so abduction is the movement, the first 15 degrees is under the control of the muscle called the supraspinatus, which is one of the rotator cuff muscles. And so the medial deltoids that we're trying to target aren't actually stimulated as much until after that first 15 degrees. And so the way to eliminate that first 15 degrees is to simply lean like so, hand down, and you've created that 15-degree angle. And now that you're in that position, you're just working all of the medial delt. Now, the other thing to consider, when you are in this position, remember the scapular plane. The scapular plane goes at 45 degrees. Now, in order to ensure that that happens, because typically you'll do this on a cable machine, which I would actually prefer. So what we want to do to ensure that we've got that 45 degree and working in the scapular plane is to turn the toes towards the hands slightly. When you do that, you've automatically, if you see me stand up now, you've automatically created that 45 degree. Whereas if the toes are pointing forwards, you haven't got that angle. So this is a clever little hack to do that. Once you're in position, you are set up to perfectly execute your lateral raise. Now, this is a very humbling exercise. You're probably going to have to use something very light for this. So this is 7.5 pounds, which is around about 3 to 4 kilos. So I'm in position, arm is dangling down, toes out slightly to establish that scapular plane, and then make sure that the palm is facing in towards you so that as you come up, it is your medial deltoid that is on the top, because what's on top works most. Finally, we're going to hit the rear delt. So the movements that the rear delts are involved in are what's called transverse shoulder abduction, external rotation, and extension of the shoulder. And so one of the best movements that we can do for this, that's going to bring all those movements that I've talked about into play, is this kind of face pulling movement here. This is going to be another one where you're going to be humbled by the size of the dumbbells. And to set this one up, get yourself onto your bench, thrust your hips down into the bench, and then assume a starting position with your palms facing in. And once we're in this position, the main things that I'm thinking about is just driving the thumbs up and out to the side. That's going to help to get the elbows nice and wide, and it's also going to create that external rotation and extend the shoulder as much as possible. So if I just demonstrate that, up and out to the side, pull the shoulder blades down, and then release back to that same position, same again. And one thing that's really going to help is if you just keep the chest slightly extended, because that's going to allow you to get even more external rotation of the shoulder. So there you have it, guys. 3 dumbbell exercises to target every head of your deltoids. Let me know in the comments which exercises that you like to do to achieve the same purpose. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.